Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pets or Family. I'm Tricia Montgomery, along with
Jessica Abernathy,
your host for this fun and informative video podcast, where we talk about the real issues that matter to you as pet parents and way more. How do you make your pets feel like family?
Hey Trish, how are you doing this week?
I'm good, Jessica. How are you?
I can't complain yet. Give me a little bit of time. The week's just starting out,
You know what, Jessica, I don't think you and I complain that much. I have to say there's a lot of people who complain, and I don't think we have a lot of complaining to do. We're pretty lucky. I mean, look at us. We're doing a Pets or Family podcast, something we talked about forever, and that's FUR, forever. And we have that chance to do it. So I love this. I absolutely love this. And you look beautiful. Absolutely. How are you?
I'm good. You always look pretty. You always look pretty, as my dad would do. Pretty. My dad does those. I love my dad. Can you tell? Because I always talk about him. But my dad does. My dad does those weird backwards compliments, and you just look at him and you're like, "Thanks, Leroy. I think." You know what I mean? The other day he tells me, he goes, "Hey, kid," because that's what he calls me. He goes, "Your head looks really good with long hair," and I'm like, okay, thanks, Dad. I'm like, all right, anyway, long, but thank you. You look great too.
So wait, you call your dad Leroy? I could never imagine calling my dad by his first name. I never could call my dad by ever. I don't know why, but I think I could never have called my dad by his first name, which was Carl. I could have never called my dad Carl ever.
Oh, that's so. No, I call him either Leroy or Pops.
Okay.
Pops or Leroy. It depends on when he calls me what role I'm playing. So I'm either his daughter or his secretary. So when he calls, I'll be like, "Hey, Pops, what is it? Do you need your daughter or your secretary?" He's like, if when he needs his secretary, it's usually like, "Hey, kid, did you get that email? Can you email me?" Or my father was a programmer for IBM, like when I was a kid, and he'll call me up and he's like, "How do you get into the Paramount Plus app again?" And I'm like, "How in the heck were you a programmer for IBM?" But I got to realize that it's changed so much, you know what I mean? Because, the servers back then were like a room, and now it's like you can carry it in the palm of your hand practically. So I have to remember, you know what I mean? And it's funny too, because, think about it now. I mean, you have kids, right? And when you have grandchildren, they're going to be looking at you going, "Oh, Grandma, you're old." You're like, "No, we're not. I'm not old." And you're like, yeah, you are.
I am not old. It's funny. I'm like, I am not old. No, I'm not. And those that advice that we get from our children, my daughter Gabrielle, love her. She's like, "Mom, you really shouldn't wear your hair up. You should wear it down." I remember one time I got my hair cut very, very short. And you've had your hair cut very short too, Jessica. We talked about this. I remember one time she drew a picture of me with long hair and me with like short hair, and she put a big old X across the one that had short hair. So that was, I guess a sign that not to have short hair anymore. So I never have had short hair since that time.
So that's the kid's way of saying, "Hey, Mom, I don't like your hair short."
I don't like a big X through that. Oh my gosh, our kids. And Mother's Day is coming up here very shortly here, and we've got some really cool episodes coming up for Mother's Day. I think we're going to be having a really cool person coming on with the company Forged and Formed, and she's going to talk about pet parenting and why more people are younger people are opting not to have children, but they're just having their dogs as their family. And I can't wait to talk about that because, it's very interesting, the dynamics that are happening right now. So super cool. Yeah. I can't wait.
And as you know, I'm one of those. I never had children. You know what I mean? I have a 4-legged child, and his name is Teddy. He's my all little black Shih Tzu. Love my Tedders, you know what I mean? He's my baby, don't mess with my baby, I will cut you. I'll throat punch you and cut you, you know what I mean? But yeah, he's my baby. So I get it. So
I guess That word of advice, Jessica, sorry, that I think that, never mess with Teddy, or, if anybody ever meets us in person, I think it's going to be very interesting. They're either going to be afraid, or they're going to run away, or they're just going to run around. They're going to hug us completely. So I don't know which one is it.
I think they're going to love us because they know we're truly animal lovers. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, you're my people, you are my people. Yeah. I mean, he's my kid, you know what I mean? He's a little lovable,
love it.
So
Yeah.
I'm just protective of him, you know what I mean? He's just, a lot, like you said, you know what I mean? I was one of those folks that I didn't have children, but I have my dog, you know what I mean? His, Ted, him, and he's my heart and soul, and I'm very protective of him, and I don't treat him like a dog. He's my kid, and I treat him like my kid. I come home from work and I get on the floor, and we have our 15-minute love fest every day, and we love it, and like, I mean, when you come home, when you have kids, you come home and you spend 15-20 minutes on the couch getting caught up. He sits there and rolls around and tells me what he did, which is sleep, so yeah.
Yeah, I know. I miss that. Moose passed away about a year ago, and I still cannot I'm not there yet. It's interesting. I just can't do it yet, but he was my glue. You think about those pets that are glue, and I always said, you're kind of your heart walking outside your body. Although, Jonathan, that is you as well. My son, that's you as well. And Gabrielle.
Right.
But it's just interesting because they, you treat them like family, you cook for them, whatever. I mean, going with you everywhere, going to the store, and the love that you have for them. Gosh, yeah. Felt like my heart got ripped out a little bit with Moose. So we'll see. I'm at that point now where I'm thinking, maybe looking at another dog, want to get another dog. And when it happens, you guys will be with me on that journey, and when the time's right, for sure. But right now, I get the beauty of going around and fostering or seeing other people's pets. So yeah. And we've got a really cool pet parent. This is somebody that Just Joan. Talk a little bit about Joan.
I'm so excited to have Joan on. So I help take care of Miss Joan's pups. I call them the peanut butter dogs, just so you know. I mean, that's something there's Fonzie, Harvey, and Ruru. Ruru is my favorite. You know what I mean? And I tell him all the time. So
oh, wow.
And Ruru knows it, but he's my favorite. Anyway, she has PVGDs and she'll tell you about it, but Joan does barn hunting with them, and I don't understand it, but I always praise her about it, and she tells me all about it. And Harvey is the old guy. You've heard me talk about the old man, and Harvey is like really accomplished, and this year he's got chosen to help teach the young ones on how to hunt, which is a huge compliment to him. And Fonzie's the puppy, which Fonzie lives up to his name on a regular, you know what I mean? But I know for a fact that boy is just amazing at what he does, because that boy's got amazing eyes. His nose is always on the floor, and he's great. And Rue's my love. I just love Rue, but Rue is just like, he's just amazing at it. But she does competitions with this, and I don't know a lot about it, and I wanted to bring her on because it's just one of those sports that you kind of hear about, like barn hunting, you know what I mean? But I mean, have you ever met, I've been in this industry for over 20 some odd years. I've never met anybody that does it. I've briefly heard about it, but I don't know anybody that does it. So I would love to hear about it, but I know the boys well. And you've heard me when I've been over there. You've heard
I have.
I let them outside, you hear, and it's like, oh, please, the neighbors are going to yell, so I'm really excited to talk to Joan today. So
I am too. Well, let's bring her on.
Yep. Here we go. Go. Hi, Joan. Thank you for coming and talking with us today. So I'm so excited to talk to you because, I spend a lot of time with your dogs, they're my favorites, you know what I mean? And I was I was telling Trish, out of the three, I have one favorite. I hate to say that, but we all know that Ruru is my favorite. And Ruru knows he's my favorite too.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so lucky that you spend time with him when I'm not here, because you just help him be less stressed and to adapt to the change of me not being around.
Yeah, so we want to talk to you about and I call them the peanut butter dogs, just because I know, and it's funny, everybody knows when I say, oh, I'm going to go see the peanut butter dogs, because they're PVGVs. So tell everybody what your breed of dog's about, for us, so that they understand what the peanut butter dogs really are.
Yep, it stands for PBGV, and it's an acronym for Petit Basset Griffon Venant. So they're little French rabbit flushing dogs. They were bred in the western kind of cliff rocky farmland of France, to help farmers in the winter when they come back in and they've been out working and they need to get dinner. They send the hounds out into the hedgerows. And so this breed was bred to be low to the ground, which is why they're basset, which is French is low to the ground. And they're petite. There's a larger version of them, and Griffon means wire hair. So they're wire haired, and they've got the long ears to, bring the scent in, but they can get into the hedgerow and they can flush rabbit. And that's how farmers would get through the winter. And the breed, that's why beagles are very popular with farmers too, because rabbit hunting is kind of big in the winter in farmlands.
Well, that explains a lot now. I actually did not know that. I mean, and I know that, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you about this is because I know that you do it's called barn hunting. I know, I just call it hunting, right?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I personally have been in the industry, the pet industry, for over 20 years. And I know of barn hunting, but I've never met anybody until you that actually does barn hunting. So I'm very fascinating to learn more about it. I mean, I know about the boys and how well accomplished the three boys are. And I know Fonz is working his way up the ladder, but I would love to educate more about it, because I find it very fascinating.
Yep. I'm just a big believer that, all dogs were bred for a reason and for a mission, and have a job. And I mean, think especially for purebred dogs, but depending on how dogs are bred, they still have this instinct to do something, whether it's herding, whether it's hunting, whether it's search and rescue. And so I'm a big believer in that. So my first dog I had, which you knew and you took care of him very well, and that was Dugan, my soft-coated Wheaten Terrier. And he really needed a job. He had a lot of energy. He did like to do a lot of discipline on the hounds. And so we found his hobby, and that was barn hunt. And that is a sport, and it's AKC recognized, and you can receive AKC titles. And in that sport, you go into a 10 by 10 ring, and it has hay bales. And when you're, got a dog who's just starting, it might be, one canister with a live rat, and they're bred for this purpose. And there's air holes. Kind of looks like that bank, that thing that tellers use to send the money to you. Yeah, that transfer tube. So in the very beginning, there'll be one rat, one tube filled with nesting, and one that's empty. And so to the human eye, you might see an edge of a canister, but you don't know what's in it. And you kind of rely on the dog. It's a partner sport. They've got to find the rat and then identify it to you that that's a rat. So it starts out pretty simple with, you find one and your dog has to climb on a bale. And my dog Dugan got to the master level, where you could go into a ring. We had no idea how many we were going to find. We didn't know. He had to go through some complex tunnels and get up top of 3 high bales. And he was a master in the sport, and people would come to watch him. He was quite impressive. So sad thing is we didn't find that towards the end of his life. And it got to a point where he didn't have the strength to get up in bales, but was tremendous at that sport. And because terriers comes from terra firma, to go to ground. And so terriers are really good ratters. And so it's a wonderful sport for any dog. If you're doing any kind of nose work with them, it's a good partner team sport with your dog. And I highly encourage it. And it's easy to do. I mean, it's easy to physically get around a 10 by 10 ring. And you're seeing more and more places offering not only scent work, but barn hunt. It's a real fun sport, really easy sport to get involved for people. My PBGVs, my hounds, they do something more akin to a field trial or a hunt test. And so what we do is we go out into usually beagle grounds will host us. I belong to 2 beagle clubs myself. And so that's where we train, and they're fenced in areas that protect rabbits. And so we feed them, we provide water for them, and we have protective fencing to keep coyote out. We can never stop hawks, but we provide a lot of shelter and a lot of cover. So build a lot of areas across a field. They can be 20 acres to one we belong to has 70 acres. So what we do is we go out, we evaluate, mature dogs who've passed an instinct test on 10 different criteria that are along the lines of how well do you use your nose to find, to search, how well do you communicate with a pack or pairs, and then how well do you work with your handler? Can we recall you back in? Can we send you where you need to be? And so that's all the criteria that we judge them on. They're out for an hour with a pack anywhere from 3 to 5 hounds. What they do is they go flush rabbits. Rabbits run in a circle. They usually turn left, which is odd. They sometimes can turn right. Their job is to hold as long as they can until they think they're going to be caught, and then they'll push out and run. So our hounds will kind of pack together and they'll circle that rabbit. And I have video where my oldest hound, Harvey, has run rabbits right across my boots. So their job is to bring that rabbit to me. My job is to figure out where to stand in the arc. That's what we do. So they love it. They don't want to catch them. They instinctively know that if I was hunting, I'd have a gun and they wouldn't want to be near me. So they instinctively know not to be close to me. But it's a really fun sport to watch the dogs interact together. The way that they use their noses, the scent work is really impressive. It's a really, really fun sport. So again, we're not hurting rabbits. We are regulated by DNR in these clubs that we belong to, and where we host our field trials or our hunt tests. So we have another one coming up this weekend. My youngest and my middle dog will run in a brace, which is 2 together. And then as they earn higher points towards titles, eventually they need to go out as a solo and go by themselves. So my oldest hound, Harvey, has the highest level of AKC title, and then more titles with our club. And then my middle dog has his highest title with AKC. And my youngest dog, Alphonse, we call him Alphonse, he is working towards his master title. He's working a senior title right now.
He's a doll, but it's funny that you said that, because not knowing, I was telling Trisha, I know your boys very well, and not knowing much about the hunt, but that explains when I open up your back door. That just explains a whole lot to me right now, because Rue goes one way, Fonz goes another way, and Harvey just kind of goes down the middle. It's like a triangle. I watch them do it all the time, but that just explains a whole lot to me right now, because they always go out the back door in a triangle.
Yeah.
And that explains a lot to me. And then I watch one of them cut across the yard. You know what I mean? Harvey has slowed down because of his age, but he always, he's always the top of the triangle, and he just kind of monitors it. But he also is the alerter. We both know he's the barker of the group. You know what I mean? But that explains a whole lot now.
They were beagles. Yeah, when I have a lot of friends who compete in all different types of dogs and different types of performance sports in the field. Beagles are really great trackers. So when they do beagle events, they'll kind of go out with like sticks and kind of hit the brush and flush rabbit as humans. Then they'll bring the beagles to the line, and they'll judge the beagles on how closely they follow where the rabbit went. And then kind of throughout the day, the best of the best eventually compete to get the best in trial. But no, I don't think there's any dog that tracks rabbit better than beagles. If they track over a trail of another rabbit, they'll keep on the original rabbit. That's how good they are. And so they're phenomenal. Our dogs do work. Beaglers will just be like, "Your dogs are crazy." They kind of like go out. We're like, well, they're kind of looking for their own rabbits, and they kind of talk to each other. And I'm sure you've heard this. they talk quite a bit back and forth to each other, and they have different sounds based on, I smell something, hey, I think I see something, hey, I'm full out running, I'm chasing something, come join me. And so we get to learn all those different sounds when we're out in the woods with them or in fields. We can't see them, but that's why their tail is curved up like a saber. So you can see them out in the field, and it will kind of move different ways based on what they're doing. They're scenting, they're chasing, and it's kind of cool. So that's what that tail and why it was kind of bred to be the way it is.
That's it. Oh, go ahead, Trisha. Go ahead.
No, I find this fascinating. I do. I was telling Jessica earlier, I did some work with the International Kennel Club a long time ago. But I also find it interesting that you talked about, Joan, that dogs need jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What talk about that?
Yep. I just think they have this energy, right? Whether they're caretakers and they're herding dogs. And I think we've all heard these stories or seen it in action where, a group of people go in a backyard and a herding dog gets everyone in the corner, right? And you're always like, how did they get there? Well, the dog is nudging them up against the legs and herded them all. So dogs, they instinctively have this thing they were bred to do. And when we can figure out what that is and get them, they get super engaged. And they love it. It helps burn off some energy for those with high energy. But I just think it's fun to see them in that sport. Like in our sport, they naturally will pick up on it, and they learn from each other as a pack. My first dog, Harvey, had a heart, and I didn't have another hound. It's my first time. I'd always had terriers growing up. So we did scent work classes, and that is a tremendous sport for any dog. But it really helped to connect for him, like, oh, if I use this, I can find stuff. And I know a lot of people who compete in that sport and love it. And it's really not good for any breed, but hounds, because those ears trap the scent, and when they move, it holds it. And that's why they can smell better than some other breeds, because of the way they're low to the ground and their ears are trapping the scent inside their nose. So it's fun. So Harvey, we took about 20 hours of nose work class, and then it just clicked. And still, and Jessica referenced it, he's my best scent work dog. I mean, he can smell anything that gets him into trouble sometimes. But he will be the first to alert, because he'll pick up on something. Thursday night, there was an opossum running the fence line. And Harvey was the first one to say, there's something out here. The other two were going crazy. And he's like, well, my job is done. It's here. I told you, and I'm going to go sit down now.
Oh,
I can totally see that. I really can. Yeah. But that explains a lot. But it's interesting, because I have taken care of your dogs for a long time now. And I've been around since Fonzie's been a wee little puppy. I actually know when he's got something in a tree or on a fence line. I actually know the difference in his howling. You know what I mean? Because I'll open up the back door and I'll yell at him, leave it alone. You know what I mean? I'm like, leave it alone. It's, because he's got a squirrel or a chipmunk. It's either a chipmunk in the wood pile or he's got a squirrel in a tree, because I recognize the difference in his howl. That's funny that you say that, because I never really put two and two together. I just naturally figured it out, so that's, now that you say that, I'm like, oh, okay. And I just worry about the tree, because I know he can climb trees now.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the neighbor noticed that. She's like, we need to cut this limb that goes across the fence, because we've seen him from the kitchen. And I'm like, he's my first climber of trees. So he comes from a Swedish hunting line. So from a Swedish hunt kennel. And his great grandfather Aslak had to be in his own field with his own trees, and he was unfortunately very well known for catching squirrels. And just because he's already caught one, so it's not what we wanted to do. And I think he finds it surprising when he does, because he just wants to chase things. He shouldn't be faster. But
he's Fonz is Fonz. I mean, we all love him to death, you know what I mean? But and he's got, it's so cute, because he's adorable. He really is a good boy. He really is a really good boy, and he wants to be a good boy all the time for you. But you know how angry cat just naturally has that angry face? Fonzie's eyebrows gives him like the angry face. So he just looks at you, and he just looks always upset with you, no matter what you say to him. And it's just, he's a cutie patootie. I'll have to post a picture of Fonz just because he's adorable. You know, Fonz, Harvey, and Rue. But yeah. So how did you come up with their names? Because that's interesting. Yeah, I know Trisha was like, how did she come up with their names? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they came with their names, didn't they?
No, they all were named by me. So it's a French breed. And so some of the breeders will assign French names. Some of us, when we take ownership of them, will rename them. So Harvey is actually Hervé, his registered, and he's a champion. So he earned his champion title in conformation. And he also has titles in barn hunt and in field work or hunt tests on the back end. So, dogs that conformation titles in the front, and then all the other work titles are on the back of their names. So yeah, he's Hervé, and his kennel name is Le Vernet, which means elf hound, elf dog. So his breeder originally had corgis when she was growing up. So that was his kennel name. So he's Hervé, and I call him Harvey Hound. So he's named after Harvey, the 6-foot rabbit from that old movie. And so my goddaughter's first rabbit was named Harvey. So I kind of combined the two to get to Harvey Hound, because he finds rabbits. He's not actually the rabbit, but that's Harvey. The middle one, Giroux, was supposed to be Alphonse, but he came out with orange coloring and not black. So I'm like, he doesn't really look like a Fonz. So I saw him at 10 weeks and he looked like he just had the swagger. He looked like a hockey player, the way he was kind of like moving. And so I said, well, I'm going to find a French, red-headed French Canadian hockey player. So I found Claude Giroux. So that he's named after. So we call him Giroux. When he competed in his barn hunt career was very short. He was too friendly with the rat wranglers. He was going to be suspended from the sport. He just wasn't behaving well. So he's done. But when they would call his name, they would say G-Rocks because it's R-O-U-X. So they called him G-Rocks, which is pretty funny. So a lot of people just call him Ruru, but it's Giroux. And then the last one, Alphonse. I always liked the name and finally had a dog with black spots. So Alphonse, we call him the Fonz. So,
yeah.
I love that. I love those names. It's always so interesting when you think about why those names came to be. And you've just got such really cool, unique names. You do. I love those, Joan. Wow. And looking at PBGBs, I can see the peanut butter concept there, Jess. I can. I definitely can. Yeah. What made you go into those, though? You had the soft coated Wheaten before, but then so why the PBGBs? Just because of hunting? Or
no, actually, no. Because I'd waited about 19 years to get my first dog. I moved quite a bit with my career. And so where I lived in Hawaii at one point, and one of my neighbors had a Wheaten, and I just fell in love with that Wheaten. So I always wanted a Wheaten. And when I got a Dugan, and I think for those who might be familiar, sometimes they call them Wheaten terrorists. They're really good and they can just snap. And terriers can be like that.
yeah.
But I was traveling, and I just could sense that he was having some separation anxiety. And someone said, you should get him a dog, a buddy to be with him. And I read an article, and I wish I would have kept it, but it said that hounds and terriers are really good partners because they have opposite temperaments, which could not be more true. They bark for different reasons. They get fired up for different reasons. So when Harvey was fired up, Dugan was calm. When Dugan was fired up, Harvey would know how to calm him down. So I got Harvey to be with Dugan. But when someone said get a hound, I immediately thought beef hounds or deer hounds or like big, bloodhounds. I'm like, I don't know if I'd be good with a really big dog. And someone said, no, Joan, you watch Westminster, you see that happy hound, the little guy. I don't know what that is. So then I started researching and contacted the National Club. So the PBGBCA, Club of America. And so I contacted the club, and then they have recommended breeders, and was able to get in contact with a breeder in Wisconsin who ended up being a judge for the field trial work. Judging, before Harvey was even born, I went to a field event down in the Carolinas. I ended up walking every single event because I was so amazed by what the dogs were able to do. And I'd hoped my puppy would do it one day. And so That's kind of how we began our adventure, but the breeder was very involved in that. So I highly recommend anyone who's just interested in a breed reaching out to the national clubs, or researching through the AKC, just more about the temperament, about the breed, getting to see them. And I'm really glad I did it. So that's how I got into PBGBs.
Yeah, they're fascinating. I knew about Griffons, and I have a good friend of mine that has the larger Griffons, and her husband hunts, and that's why they have the larger Griffons. And I've heard about the petites. I just hadn't met them until I met you, and I got my introduction very quickly with those three. You know what I mean? But they're good boys. They have great temperaments, which that's something you haven't touched on, but they really do have great temperaments. They're great house dogs too, even though they're hunters. They really are. I can't. They're snugglers. I mean, all three of them are really good snugglers. They're great with people, too. And I don't have any kids, but I can't see them being bad with children at all.
No, they're naturally pack animals. They want to be with other dogs. They get along well with other dogs. And I, just because I'm a handler and I compete with them, I want that strong bond with them. With hounds though, I would never really recommend them as a good pet for a first time dog owner. Because they are a bit sly, and hound dogs, they're going to want to go out. Their nose or their eyes are going to want to break out. So Jessica knows, I got Alcatraz in the backyard, to keep them, double gates, everywhere, to keep them inside, because they're just going to want to follow the nose. And so if you're not used to that, beagles are that way, that, they can easily escape, not because they don't like you, just because they want to go do their job.
Yeah.
So people aren't used to it. That can be a real problem. But hounds, when they're not working, they like to chill.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They're either howling, running, or they're sleeping. Those are your three options: howl, run, sleep. Those are it. You know what I mean? And when they're done for the day, they're done. What was it? I stayed with them a couple weeks ago, and we got a huge thunderstorm throughout the night, and then it was a huge storm all through the next day, and we lost power and stuff. And, poor Ruru, he doesn't like that. And the boys were up half the night, because it was storming. They went to sleep at 4 p.m. and slept for like 14 hours. I was like,
oh, wow.
I was like, wow. I was like, this is better than daycare. Like, this is awesome. Like, but after a while, I'd have to wake them up to make sure that everybody was okay. But it was amazing. I mean, they crash. They're awesome. I love them. I call them, but you are right. They are sly, because they're sneaky and they're sly. And when I say they're sneaky and sly, they are like children. They play mom all the time. Like, she leaves and she'll send me a note and she's like, this and this is going on. And I walk in and they're perfectly fine. And I send her a note and I'm like, they're playing you, girlfriend. They are totally playing you. You know what I mean? There is nothing wrong with either of these guys. They like to play, and they're funny because as I always say with kids, they treat mom one way and they treat their aunts another way. You know what I mean? They're good at that. They really are. So yeah. I think it's fascinating. I've learned a lot. And I've been taking care of your kids for a couple of years now, 3-4 years. And
almost 5 years this summer.
Oh wow. Yeah. I've been taking, and I love them. You know what I mean? They're like my faves. So awesome. Well, thank you for coming and sharing that. You know what I mean? We might have you on again so we could talk about it, and I'll keep everybody posted. I'm going to share a picture of all three, but so, Ruru is my favorite, Fonz, and it just so Fonz has figured out that the NutriBullet is his friend now. He actually loves to watch me make my shakes every morning. It is now his friend. It's his favorite thing to watch, we finally got over that hurdle. So as I dig it out, he's got to smell it as I make it. And then when I blend it, he actually has to sit there and watch me blend it. And then he has to smell it again. And then we're good. So, we gotten over the fear of the NutriBullet.
Yeah, very curious. He wants to explore every sound. Like yesterday, it was like I had my foot knocking at something. And he thought it was alert. Like, what do I need to go defend the home against? And he's just very aware of all of that. And poor Rue, like why he doesn't like thunderstorms. there's a park behind us, and the kids, at that time of year will set up fireworks.
Mm.
And he was on the back fence one year when a bunch of fireworks went off, and it terrified him. So it's just interesting because part of a field test, when they're running, we'll fire a starter pistol over them, just so that if they were actually hunting, they wouldn't, stop hunting or flushing. And so it's a test, and he always passes. He's not scared of that. But yeah, Jessica knows, she knows him so well that if it's gonna be lightning or thunder, he just has a fear of it.
Yep, he does. Yep. I can find him very quickly when it thunders. At first clap, I know he'll be right next to me. I don't have to go looking for him. So it's awesome. It's not awesome, but it's easy to find him. So, well, thank you. And we might have you on again to, to learn more about it. So it's awesome that you came on, and thank you for sharing it. And thank you for letting me be part of their lives, because I love it. That.
It's the reverse. I mean, it's, when you've got a job that takes you away, just, having someone like you and Gwen, what you guys do to just make sure that I can be away and not worry, and know that they're probably even better taken care of than when I'm home. So that's just so important. And I'm just glad that we have you too.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day.
Yep. Well, Trisha, you know how much I know Joan and those three, you know what I mean? And you know how much I love them. And you've heard me talk about Fonz, man.
All the time.
Fonzie and he's got like angry face. I really have got to share some pictures, and I'll see if I can get Emmy, our producer, to put them up at the end of these, instead of like our logo, I'll have them put up a couple pictures of Fonz and ruin them. But he's got the angry cat. We got angry Fonz face, but he's so sweet. He really is.
I found her fascinating because, we focus so much on adoption. And for those pet parents that may have a particular breed that they want to adopt, and we talked about you with Old English sheepdogs, me with Old English sheepdogs, standard poodles, just any of those great breeds, and then the things that you should do and what you should do. I thought that was really keen. It was great insight on, if you are thinking about getting a particular breed, the steps that you should go through and know about that breed. And that was just incredible about understanding that if you are a first-time pet owner, the reason perhaps why you may not want a hound and the things that they could do. So I love her. I mean, I want to hang out with those dogs. I want to come and pet sit with you sometime. And later on, I also want to touch upon pet sitting and the things to look for and to know as well. But yeah, love her. Absolutely loved her. Great information.
And you know what, like she said, I've been taking care of her dogs I did not realize it's been 5 years now.
5 years.
It's interesting because I learned a lot about them, their behaviors, but I've been taking care of them forever. And I didn't know that's why they did it. All I care about is at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're out there, woo, woo, and I'm just like, oh my God, the neighbor's going to kill me. They're loud at 4 o'clock in the morning, really loud. But I knew what she did with them, because she always, like every weekend she's like, we're going on a hunt, and then when she gets home, she lets me know what they did and the awards they won, and I'm always praising them. I think it's awesome, but I never understood
right
hunt, and I knew they didn't hurt the animals at the hunt, and I knew nothing was getting killed. No. You know what I mean? Because she's such an animal lover, I knew that wasn't what's going on, but I didn't understand it, so that was, to me, it was like really fascinating to me.
And glad she explained that too, because a lot of people think that, oh gosh, animals were harmed and get up in arms, and that's not the case. And those dogs have a job, and they're doing what they're bred to do. And that's where the behavior comes in. That's where a lot of those, when dogs have bad behavior, they're bored. And so giving them a job to do that's that fits with their breed and what they've been bred to do, that's incredible. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And want to know more information. I cannot wait to find out. And let's post some links up there. I also want to just give some great shout outs right now. You mentioned Emmy, our producer. He does such a great job. And also Nathan Hansen from Hansen Technology, who did our website for us too. These guys I know we're pretty perfect as it is, not.
But, they make us look even better. They make us look,
we have a team of people around us.
Yep. Yeah. And bless both of them. They, as I tell you on the regular, you're dealing with two blondes and a podcast, buddy. Two blondes and a podcast. And he's both of them make us look better. So I can't appreciate them more. So thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Nate. So awesome. But all right, we gotta wrap it up today. You know what I mean? So I gotta go. So as you always say, I usually end the call. So I'm gonna let you say it today. So what do we always try to do?
How do you make your pets feel like family?
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to us today. If you want to reach out to us, feel free to find us on petsourfamily.net or any of our social channels, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And we want to remind you, pets are family. Have a good one. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.